existence of the existence of someone, like how it starts with it, or like what is the complete how do I say it, context upon said basis of said existence in a sense. Like either you started contingent to something, or either you're necessary and you cannot fail to exist in any possible world.
Yeah, I get that, but I wouldn't really say it's modes of existence. I would more say the necessity or contingency is predicated upon the essence, not existence. But you can say
I
this
mean, yeah,
being is contingent. But yeah,
yeah.
that's
So
fine.
essentially, you essentially agree with P1 then.
Yeah, just I would change the wording. But go ahead.
Okay, sure. P2, universe relies on its essential properties to exist, that being on knowledge of powers, their existence, etc. So it relies on the properties that the universe contains. You
Mm-hmm.
agree, yes, sir? Okay, you agree with that. Okay. Now let's go to P3. So P3, universe R requires property Y for it to exist as a whole, which essentially, the fact that it relies on its essential property, and Y is going to be the attribute that we consider as the essential property. And P4, classical theism, contains all omni properties, which is all power, all knowing, and all good. And P5, X constitutes property Y for sufficient explained phenomenon, in which Y is a necessity for R. Essentially, Y, which I would deem as a necessity for what we can deem as R. Let's say that the R is essentially the universe in a sense, and via conclusion, R is contingent upon X, which makes X a necessity and R a contingency. The universe, which relies on its essential properties, which we can deem as conjunction towards fucking X, which classical theistic God, since all properties like fucking all power, all knowledge, and its very existence is completely correspondence towards the classical theistic, then I would say it's the R is contingent upon something that is also contingent upon this X for for more like a sufficient phenomenon rather than something like naturalism or whatever stupid phenomenon you can deem as that doesn't require the existence of a divine creator. So yeah, do you have any disagreements with that?
Wait. So you're saying because I think I got kind of lost in that argument. So you're saying R and X, or R is contingent on X, right? And R in this case would be the universe. And what was your reasoning for that again?
Yeah, so as I said again, that universe R requires property Y, which basically the all knowledge, no power, and its very existence. And at P4, classical theism contains all omni properties, all power, all knowing, and all good. As I claimed again in P2, the essential properties are all knowledge and all power and its very existence. So if universe R it requires property Y, essentially it relies on its essential properties to exist, and property Y is like a constitutes towards X, then logically speaking, then R is contingent upon X, which makes X a necessity and R a contingency.
Um, sure, yeah. Like R would be if R is constituted by X and X constituted by Y, then yeah, R would be constituted by X or contingent upon X. But I don't know what you mean by like knowledge, power, and this is what the universe is contingent on. I wouldn't
Bro,
really say
didn't
that.
the
I just
R?
agree that the universe is contingent upon its essential attributes.
Wait, didn't you agree earlier ago when I asked you if you have any disagreements or agreements with P2?
Yeah, the thing I didn't disagree with was that the universe depends on its essential attributes, not the that knowledge, power, and etc. etc. I wouldn't say
Yeah.
that.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, my bad there. I got like unfocused because Archie like come in, bro. So after we can debate. Let's just make this quick. So after this, I can debate Archie.
Mhm.
Yeah, back to the point. You said that you don't agree that R is contingent upon X, right?
Also, I don't agree that the universe essential attributes is like knowledge, power, etc. etc. And R's contingent upon X would be fine if all you mean by X is just something which constitutes Y, and by Y you mean something which constitutes or is an essential attribute of the universe.
Okay, so for two reputations on that, so you said that universe R, you don't agree with it. I mean, the property of like the essential properties, which in all knowledge and all power, shouldn't be the essential properties of the universe, correct?
You said what?
So yeah, you said like you don't agree with universe R requiring property Y, and property Y I deem as all knowledge, all power, and its very existence, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so omnipresence basically seems like all states of exist. I mean, where you like exist everywhere in a sense. And if you deem as something like the property of existence, and we have knowledge within our universe, we have like things such as like we can learn upon. There are knowledge that we can that like requires upon like physical phenomena or whatever. And what we deem as power could also be dependent upon the physicality in a sense. I mean, for the fact that the universe contains all of this, and without knowledge, without power, and without like fucking existence wise, which we can deem as something like omnipresence, essentially the universe would be nothing in a sense. Do you agree with that?
You said without existence, then the universe would be nothing. But you amounted existence to knowledge and power. I wouldn't say all knowledge or all power, because if I heard your reasoning correctly, because the physicality, you can say the universe would contain. I wouldn't even say it contains all physical powers, but it contains all physical powers that's actualized in that universe. But
Yeah.
then
So it.
powers aren't just physical; there's metaphysical powers. So we don't, or
Yeah.
metaphysical is kind
Yeah.
of a long term, but you know exactly what I mean. It's immaterial power.
Yeah. So
So I
essentially,
wouldn't
you agree,
encompass
like
all power and knowledge. The universe doesn't even have a mind, so I don't even know what to mean by it has all knowledge.
no, like all knowledge in a sense that every form of conceptions or ideations or like mental phenomenons are within the universe that is like, for example, like in within our reality. For example, if we say that no knowledge exists, then how can we like stay all these mental phenomena? How can we have ideations or abstract thoughts essentially? And
Well,
for
I would say
physical,
knowledge exists in the universe. I just wouldn't say it's essential. I would say it's accidental because knowledge is the apprehension of a real thing. So if there's not a mind to apprehend it, then there's no knowledge. The universe doesn't have a mind. This is not essential
yeah,
for these things that are real to be apprehended. So it's not an essential attribute.
no, like yeah, sure, I agree with the universe doesn't have a mind. We all have a mind. And I said again that well, if there is conceptions wise within our universe that is required for us essentially, like how do you say that we know for a fact that um like things such as like fucking mathematics or there are things that physicality or like how a black hole moves or how light speed works, those things which are like based or required upon knowledge because those things that you gave out are informations that you can proceed or like give out from the analysis given from the things or phenomenons that we brought up in the universe. And many conceptions wise, either if you argue that if God doesn't exist or not, that is a mental ideation based upon your mind, that is knowledge based. I would agree in a sense that the universe doesn't have a mind and stuff, but all knowledge essentially is something that the universe contains within it. And if there isn't any knowledge, there can be many formulates of like fucking paradox or like contradictions.
Wait, you think that if you think the universe contains all knowledge, but God's not contained within the universe, does this not contradict God existing?
Wait, what you say? My bad, bro.
If you're
Continue.
going to concede the point that all knowledge lies in the universe, but the universe does not contain God, essentially, which if you say it does, then that's problematic, then God wouldn't exist under
No,
that
but
view.
no, I would say that God essentially the max stuff from like all knowledge and all powers and omni properties, right? Essentially, is external to this universe, and all internal attributes there is only explained to a sufficient phenomenon that I can deem as a metaphysical being. Because if we say that there is no God that creates all universe that contains all these now all these like properties that is like equivalent to a classical theistic property, then how can you deem all this shit as like existential? It says what is a sufficient phenomenon that they completely derive for the existence of this universe?
I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't know if I just got blitzed. So repeat that in English, please. My bad. I don't use that. I don't use a lot of analytic terms, so I think that's where I'm getting lost.
Okay, my bad. Sorry. So, yeah, you know for a fact that God isn't in the universe, correct? I think that's what you're arguing earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so if God is in the essentially, I'm saying that the all omni properties of God, which is a classical theistic property, you know that like all power, all knowing,
hmm
omnipotence,
hmm
omniscience, or yeah. So that if we know for a fact that all power exists or all knowledge exists in the universe, and we can deem that as an essential property, which doesn't formulate a paradox or whatever. And if God is the one that is a sufficient phenomenon external to it, all these properties that he has is just the full maxed out form that the internal attributes depend upon within the universe. The internal attributes, essentially, the properties of the universe, the essential properties, requires this divine being that is external, extrinsic, because his powers is the one that plays all these like properties essentially. And you could deem that as like connected towards like classical theistic property.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, which I think that argument. I don't think that argument works at all. Because I wouldn't even say because you can't. If you're gonna, what do you think knowledge is? First off, before I even get to this critique,
I mean, we could define knowledge as something that a foundation of conceptions or ideations and stuff. Do you agree with that?
a foundational conception for ideation.
Yeah, because if you like for example, there is no knowledge, then there is the incapability to
What do you mean by
perceive like mental
consensual
phenomenon.
there? What do you mean by conceptual there?
I mean, a concept like abstract ideas, bro.
An
Something
idea.
that yeah, an idea.
But is an idea not what we're trying to like define? Like trying to get to what knowledge is. Knowledge, I would say fundamentally, is how your intellect responds to the reality or how much it reflects reality. Right? So
Hmm.
like if I say for example I comprehend the form of a tree, that reflects reality, that's knowledge. Would you
Okay,
agree
but
with that account or no?
oh wait, yeah, can you repeat that tree analogy, bro? My bad.
So if I um like look at a tree and I take in the information of a tree or the form of a tree, then if my conception reflects reality, then would you not say that's knowledge, correct?
I mean, you could consider that as knowledge, but if knowledge don't exist, then how essentially can we get the phenomenon
Well,
of
you're
this
saying
tree?
if
Like,
the tree doesn't exist, knowledge is literally just a relationship between your concept and reality.
yeah, it's yeah, essentially. But hold on, let me just um, let's just go back to so I'll just go on. If I don't know if you agree with like this definition or stuff, but knowledge is facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or education and theoretical or practical understanding of a subject. So if we have like a subject that contains all these phenomenons and we essentially understand this said phenomenon, you can deem that as knowledge. Am I correct?
Oh, you repeat that last part?
Yeah. So knowledge, facts or informations and skills acquired by a person through experience or education, the theoretical or practical understanding of a subject, you deem
Mm-hmm.
that as knowledge, in a sense, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So you require knowledge as a linkage towards a conception for you to for like this said being to understand said subject, right?
A link between the conception.
Mm-hmm.
I think conceptions do link, but I don't think you need another conception to understand something or to have knowledge.
No, like
Uh,
the concept itself, and you essentially like the linkage is the knowledge, and it's like we have a being that tries to understand this said phenomenon, and then he gets information from that. That is a linkage between the concept and the knowledge. The knowledge is the one that links it from the said person and said being.
the knowledge is what links it.
Yeah, I mean,
That
without
doesn't even
knowledge, you
make
wouldn't.
sense.
No, like yeah. So I'll just define this again: of facts, information, and skills acquired by a person through experience or
Yeah,
education.
facts,
So
information, or skills
yeah,
required by
yeah.
experience. Fun.
Yeah, so you deem knowledge as something you can get from like some basically that like the information that you have in your mind from like understanding a certain phenomenon, and that certain phenomenon either a concept or not or something that is within a physical range. So if you know for a fact that that is required, then knowledge would be linked towards conception. Am I correct?
hmm I'll give you this because I don't think you're getting my critique. But I'll put it this way: you think obviously under classical theism, God's ineffable, right?
God's ineffable is basically inconceivable, right?
hmm
Yeah, from our human mind and our human nature, we can conceive of something divine.
Yeah, if God is ineffable under classical theist view, then how do you say we gain knowledge of God? How would you say these things are these like say for example all knowledge, all this and that? How do we gain knowledge of God then under this
I mean,
view
God,
that you're taking?
God, yeah. Listen, God is beyond our understanding. As for now, we humans have the ability to think in a sense. If we try to understand the origin of the universe, the essential is that either assumptions or not. Either we like think that we try to prove there's a necessary being that creates all contingencies within the universe or not. But in a sense, we do know for a fact we cannot conceive of God. We haven't proven if God exists objectively in a sense that okay, I have evidence, I have like screenshots, or I have like pictures of God, he's in heaven and stuff. Like no, you can't do that. He's obviously ineffable. His states of existence completely distinct from ours. He's extrinsic to our attributes of the eternal universe. So but in a sense we could still talk about him. If we can talk about him, there's a linkage towards the knowledge or the concept of God. The concept of God or its essence completely distinct if either he's real or not. That is something that is either synthetic. That is a synthetic proposition, either true or false, that we still haven't proven. So yeah, I don't see how that like refutes my argument and stuff.
Yeah, it refutes your argument because if you're saying that, hold on, 7. Fuck. All right, never mind. Go ahead. I was saying that pretty much if you're saying that because earlier you said we're knowing God, right? We're coming from these created effects to God. If that's the case, then how do we gain knowledge of the creator if he's ineffable? It's kind of my whole thing you're saying. 'Cause you're saying, well, we know there needs to be this divine thing which we're gaining knowledge of. Essentially, we're gaining knowledge of this thing. How would this be if he's ineffable? This seems to go against the whole claim, and this is also go against my other point, which is that if the universe contains all knowledge, and then knowledge, like you said, is something you gain through experience, and it reflects reality. If all knowledge contained within the universe, then unless God is contained within the universe, he doesn't exist, which is problematic for classical theism.
Okay, so hold on. The after I give out arguments, do you want to conclude, man? I kind of want to debate Archie,
Sure.
but yeah, you're kind of chill, but I'm not even gonna lie, you're pretty chill, not gonna lie. So I'll give respect to that. You're a good person, bro. I don't know why niggas are hating you in this server. So yeah, um to completely refute what you said again, like you said that knowledge itself reflects reality. Am I correct
Mm-hmm.
in this like syllogism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so and since we can't like conceive of God, that and God isn't in the universe, then God doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, not
so
necessarily that. It was more of like what's it called? Those are two different objections. One was that you're saying we're coming from these created effects to knowledge of God, but if God's ineffable, the knowledge of God's impossible. But also would say that critique two is just that if you say all knowledge is contained within the universe, which your argument is saying, then if knowledge reflects reality, then God either must be in the universe or doesn't exist, because then it wouldn't reflect reality.
okay, so to essentially refute that, we go back to P4. It says, oh, my bad. Classical theism contains all omni properties. Essentially, they're just the maxed out form of what you can deem as the, you know, how we reflects reality. If you have like, knowledge reflecting reality in the universe in a sense, it's like an eternal attribute. And what I would say is that if knowledge in fact reflects reality, and then there's a divine being that holds the maxed out concept of knowledge that he can brought up upon the universe, I wouldn't essentially say that's a contradiction in a sense. I wouldn't also say that if it's ineffable, it's a contradiction. Because for the fact that if there's a physical state, I mean, not a physical state, but if there's a metaphysical being out there that's beyond our comprehension, but we can still know for a fact the conceptions of this being is either existential or not, it's not in a sense that, well, it's a contradiction to him being ineffable or not. It's just in a sense that we can grasp upon a concept we cannot conceive that we can either deem as either existential or not. But to completely refute your critique or whatever, is that if there is the property which is y, which all knowledge of power and its very existence, and property, and then x, which is the classical theistic God, constitutes property y for sufficient explained phenomenon, then the phenomenon itself that existential within the eternal attributes of the universe is just existential because of this being that reflects said knowledge, that reflects said reality of said universe. If you deem as God as the creator of reality, and you deem as God as the creator of knowledge, then you can deem for a fact that a metaphysical being can in fact be existential in a sense. Yeah, we can conclude, bro. You can you can go
You were
first, bro.
saying that. You were saying that. Okay. You said that. What was your critique to the last argument again? My bad.
Yeah, are you sleeping, bro? Like, I just question. It seems like you're really tired, bro. Like, I didn't have to force you to debate, bro. It's fine. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So, yeah. To completely like say it again, I said that the universe R requires property Y for it to exist, and I said that in P5 X constitutes property Y for sufficient explained phenomenon. Essentially, God is the one that created reality and knowledge in a sense. If you agree with that, then in the fact that if knowledge reflects reality, then God will be the creator of said knowledge, and he would contain the max out property of knowledge in a sense. And therefore, if it's an extrinsic attribute distinct from this eternal attribute that reflects reality from this eternal cosmology, or like this reality in a sense with our universe, then it would just be for a fact that a metaphysical being creates the property of knowledge and power and good or whatever. So yeah,
Wait,
that's my
wait,
conclusion.
wait, wait. That's completely incompatible with your view. If knowledge of something is created, yet God is omniscient, which is all knowing, and He has all knowledge, you don't have to say God's created. And you have to say power. If you say power is created, you have to say that's created as well. Because again, under classical theism, all of his attributes are identical. And if you the other argument, if you're going to say, well, we come to know this, well, I fully didn't hear it. I'm not going to lie. But my argument against you said would mostly be that we either know by a part or by a whole. If we know by a part, then he's not simple. He's composite, which is obviously problematic. And if we say by a whole, then he's not ineffable anymore.
Okay, so yeah, I think I've argued enough. So do you want to conclude, bro?
Sure.
Okay, so you want to go first? You
Yeah.
should I go first or you should go first? Up to you.
So too.
I think I should go first, bro. So you can have your last argument, bro. So yeah. Um, so to completely, like, I'll just like make this quick in a sense, so I could finally debate Archie. Um, in the syllogism I presented were P1 to P5, and the conclusion that his critiques that was a contradiction that if God isn't in the universe, then the eternal attributes that reflects knowledge, I mean the eternal attributes which is reality that reflects knowledge, would be a contradiction if there is no knowledge that contains of God. My rebuttal was that God is the one that if God is the creator of the reality, if knowledge in a sense that he has the maxed out property of knowledge, an extrinsic form of knowledge in a sense external to the eternal form of knowledge from this universe, then the internal and external attributes are the one that